I was listening to Stubbs and the second Stubbs, Live Stubbs, and I'm amazed at the growth of your artistry.
Thank you.
I think the band has a lot to do with it, but not to sell you short. I think that you've grown as an artist and grown in what you're trying to accomplish. Would that be fairly accurate?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
What is it like? How do you determine what path you want to take in the music that you're doing and what you're doing?
I guess I'm influenced. I continue to be influenced, even though it's funny. I don't listen to that much music. I don't spend as much time as when I was a teenager, or a kid, or when I was developing my sense of music and my sense of what kind of music I wanted to create.
Right.
I know there was a time when I would listen to music all the time, all day long. Now it's very rare that I hear something new, but I'm influenced. When I hear something that I really like, when I go out on the stage or I sing a song or I'm recording a song, the music has to take me there.
Right.
The music has to take me to that place where everything is fresh and brand new and feels great. And I guess I was lucky enough to, I saw the Dub Trio. I listened to their music, loved their sound, loved the different styles and things, the way they brought different things together.
Yeah.
It was very in line with my own taste of how the type of music that I like and all that. And then saw them play, and then was lucky enough to be able to perform with them, and it just felt like the right step. Like when you're playing with musicians where you don't have to explain to them, you can't explain feel. You can't explain feel to somebody. No one could explain, like with Jerry Garcia, the way he played, the tone that he got. You couldn't explain that, right? You can't explain the feel that Quest, Love has when he's playing the drums and Pocket type of rocket. So, I was lucky enough to be able to play and surround myself with musicians in that realm. And basically together we all just sort of going in different directions, develop.
The songs last longer on stage too. I mean, the live thing has really come of age in terms of jamming out songs, and I'm sure I mean Stubbs 2 doesn't have any of the older stuff on it, but I would imagine even some of the older stuff now that when you play it, it lasts a lot longer and is more of that jam feel to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, with this band in particular, and this what I'm doing right now, they're not a band that likes to solo. None of the members in the band like to solo. And normally, in the sense of jamming, it's all about the soloist and where the soloist is leading.
Right.
The music.
I didn't mean specifically like jam bandy. What I'm saying is just jamming for longer periods of time.
Right.
And these guys do that.
Right.
They just play forever.
Right. The dynamics build and go in different directions. It's fun. They're definitely fun to play with, but at the same time, they're sort of a punk rock band at heart, and they're very to the point, and they have a certain edge to them.
Right.
And that's one of the things that that they have that sets them apart a little bit.
How important is the message still to the music that you're making? And you were for a very long time in this pocket of your Judaism is clearly important to you and all of that, but to a certain extent, some of that is diminished not diminished, but is lessened now that you're making more music and coming out of that, breaking out of that old theme.
Yeah. Well, I think the song "One Day" was a good mainstream, sort of got out there beyond obviously the Jewish market.
Right.
I've been doing this now for about 7 years.
Yeah.
Touring, playing shows and tons of shows, and going and playing in new places, playing in colleges, playing in festivals, and all types of different environments. And I think it's sort of I'm the type of artist where I really built what I built from the ground up.
Yeah.
And it started with a buzz. It started in New York City. It started amongst mostly secular Jews in
Yeah.
New York City, and it grew from there. And then certainly when King Without a Crown came out, and Jimmy Kimmel and all those things,
It was very novelty at the beginning too,
Right.
right? But it's
yeah,
not.
it was a surprise. It was something interesting. But after now saying that I've been doing it for years, and I'm going back and playing the shows and living the life, it feels good, and the people that are there for the music.
I think it was about a year ago that you and Drake started goofing around on Twitter.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know how much he did, but
You were just having fun,
well,
right?
no, I was eating in a restaurant in Los Angeles called Real Food Daily,
Right.
a vegan restaurant, and the guys from what was it? One of those TV shows where they catch celebrities.
TMZ.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Over there. So they, those guys are trained professionals at trying to figure out how to. Who was that? Hey, how's it going?
How to push the buttons.
And figuring out how to get you to say something that's that'll be newsworthy,
Yeah.
interesting, funny. So he said something like, "How do you feel about how Drake said he's the only Jew who knows how to do it," or something?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So so I said something back just as a joke, whatever.
Right.
Irrelevant.
It's actually it's remarkable the artists that are out there that are proud Jews that are giving it up, and at a time where one could argue there's certainly some anti-Semitism on the rise, and what's going on in Israel. I mean, it's great to have representatives who are proud to be Jews in the entertainment world.
Yeah, you definitely have it in the movie world so much. There's so many. I was thinking about how many personalities there are that are in Hollywood that are Jewish and that are not necessarily, certainly not religious, but definitely Jewish by all, culturally and
spiritually and stuff.
Or even just culturally have sort of Jewish look or a Jewish feel to their humor or whatever it is, And in America, that's we're involved in a big way, in the depths of this country. So
you've played Israel a couple times, and I know that you love going back and reading your tweets. Is that an important thing for you to do? Keep going back and hanging out there? Is that eventually somewhere where you want to settle? Or?
Oh, Israel! I love Israel. I definitely want to buy a place there at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been close to home for me. So
let's get back to the music. I was talking to Stu before we sat down, and you guys are working on new material for a record.
Yeah.
How far away is that?
Well, it was written in a sort of interesting way, in a bit of a different way. I went with a friend of mine we sort of co-write together and sort of study together before we write a record. The last record we did it with Reb Nachman, story of the seven beggars, and particularly this record we did it with the Baal Shem Tov and the story of the Akedah of Abraham and Isaac, the sacrifice and all that. So we went actually to the Ukraine, to the grave of the Baal Shem Tov.
Wow.
And sat there for about a week and sort of just meditated on these ideas, got as deep into them as we could, and then wrote basically an album's worth of material, all based on this one theme, And then I go to sort of with the Dove Trio, and I'm like, all right, well, this is perfect for them because it's the ideas and it's edgy, it's a little bit edgy and it's a little dark,
yeah.
And for the Dove Trio, it's perfect because they have that sublime sort of melodic, beautiful sound, and then they've got this real sort of edgy, thing going on, so dark thing going on. So then we basically start etching out tunes and stuff, and then I start putting the lyrics to it. We're in that process now.
How soon? How far away is the record?
Well, the record will probably be out early next year, I'm hoping. And then there's another project that I've been working on as well.
Which is that the acoustic stuff that you're doing?
Well, no, that's with this producer Kojak, and it's more of a mainstream hip hop.
Really?
More digitally produced record with big hooks and melodies, and it's really cool. It's a lot of fun, and that's probably the next thing I'm going to put out.
Is that something the writing for you? stylistically is so different from you writing melodies and then you writing rhymes and stuff. Is that a difficult transition for you?
Pretty much no. I mean, when I sit down to write to music, I write it all together. You know, the melodies, the lyrics, it all kind of comes together.
Yeah, but I'm saying a hip hop record versus a Matisyahu record as we know it.
No, I mean, I pretty much do the same thing, and
Yeah.
it's just that there's different. You know, it's couched in a different sound,
Right.
and so it brings out different qualities and different aspects to what I do. But it all always comes back down to the same thing. And for me, I guess that's one of the things that I do is like a lot of different, explore a lot of different styles, a lot of different tapestries of sound.
Yeah.
I do it, on my live show. Throughout the whole show is constantly flowing and changing different styles as the way I'm singing.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with, like in this situation where I have like someone who has a very strong style and it appeals to me in a certain way, and we just take off, in that direction.
How much beatboxing are you doing in the live thing? Because I didn't hear a lot of it on the Stubbs record. Is that something that you put in the background?
Well, I usually do it like once a show.
Yeah.
It's usually like I either showcase it for a couple of minutes or I work it into a tune.
Yeah.
But when you have instrumentalists, with
play.
drums and drum pads and keyboards and instruments, and it's like the beatboxing is sort of, it's really one or the other.
It's just it kind of reminds people of those early days, right? Back at Crown Heights, and so many of your people who are down with your sound remember that stuff from the early days.
Yeah, and that's why I usually just do it like to give people a taste,
I know you said that you're not listening to a lot of stuff now, but are there any artists that are catching your ear that you want to tell people about?
Well, there's my good friend Trevor. He's great, and Trevor Hall. He just put out a record.
Yeah, it is a great record.
And who else? And then there's the trio, the Dub Trio. And they also are just putting out a record, another record, new record now. But this not too much else.
Not too much. Thanks for taking the time, man. I know that you got a show in like an hour. You got things going on, but
I got to take my slippers off at some point today. Go to work.
Go to work. Thanks so much for taking the time, man. Always, I really appreciate it.